Hello and welcome, Sir Simon and Winrich Hopp. The Musikfest Berlin is organized by the Berliner Festspiele in cooperation with the Berlin Philharmonic Foundation. But in fact, I guess there are two people who really love to work together. And when you meet, what is happening when you make a new program?
There are a few people in the world with who you can really play table tennis and make programs. And it's a matter of not only sharing what you like, but sharing what you can't stand as well. Sometimes we talk about the worst concert programs that we've ever seen, and there are really some examples of that. I think it's the concert that started with Ravel's Bolero is one extraordinary example. The concert that I heard as a kid with the BBC Symphony Orchestra with Sacre de Printemps in the first half and Bruckner Seventh in the second half. Yeah. Whatever. But a lot of it is just simply wanting to see what makes a fantastic, balanced, ideally spicy meal.
I think one quality of our collaboration is that the communication is very fast concerning the programs. And I think this is very important, that the things have to be done very spontaneously. Then it's good. Otherwise,
what would you love to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I can often feel in this culture very hemmed in by the expectations of what there has to be, and so sometimes in a quite conservative environment. And this is very far from a conservative environment, and so suddenly it's easier to think of what comes.
In how far could you prepare this talk? Did you come with 30 proposals or?
No, never. I think our first start was the Lutosławski anniversary. This was the nucleus.
I mean, this last season with the orchestra, we played a lot of his music. I was very close to Witold, and I think Esa-Pekka Salonen and I are the two who have most treasured this music. And I'm now old enough to realize that composers often have a dip in the performances of their pieces after their death. It's even true with a composer like Berio now, but I've seen it very, very often. And Lutosławski said this wonderful thing, which he said, sometimes composers feel like mustard in the banquet of music. And I'd love to be once a beefsteak in the banquet of music. And it felt to me that also the time for this had come with his music. And when at the start of the season we played the Third Symphony for the opening concert, the orchestra and the audience were all kind of beside themselves with how powerful this now feels. Some of the older members of the orchestra said to me, we played this with Lutosławski in the 80s, and we thought he was a wonderful man, but we thought his music was horrible, and we feel a bit ashamed of ourselves looking back. And some music, it just simply takes people time to get. And now there's the right time. The Third Symphony, for instance, stands up with any of the big symphonic masterpieces you can think of.
So what was he like as a person?
Did you meet him, Winrich?
No, never.
Most composers are very, very odd people. There are real exceptions, but almost by the nature of it, they're larger than life, or eccentrics, or impossible. You only have to think of Stockhausen to think of someone who was all three, even at breakfast. Witold was one of the 3 or 4 composers I've met in my life who was just a complete and utter gentleman, from a rather aristocratic family. I mean, my mother would have said, "What a well-brought-up young man." But in fact, this was a real, you felt there was a volcano in him, but he was always polite, always charming, always extremely warm, with that typical Polish feeling that all the sensations are very, very close to the skin. Anything could happen, but a real gentleman, and everybody who worked with him simply adored him. It was the players said, "Oh, we didn't like his music at all, but we thought he was the most wonderful man." It's very special. You have no idea how that helps. Composers can very, very easily get frustrated, and I'm sure Witold got frustrated on many occasions. But he would never show it. He would never want people to suffer from it. He wanted people to be given joy by his music. And he often says, "Look, if there isn't joy in this, what are we doing this for?" So no, this was a great man. But boy, I wouldn't want to be a politician while he was talking. He could be very sharp as well. And you hear this in his music.
The second work on the program in the Musikfest Berlin are the songs The Love Struck Gustav Mahler wrote. It was an unhappy love. We do not meet a completely foolish man, but we meet somebody who finds himself as the lonesome wanderer, like he found the person in Schubert's Winterreise. So what do you find in these 4 songs?
Well, look, this is very, very young Mahler. And in a way, it's like a mirror to Lutosławski, because this is Mahler really discovering his language. And of course, the first symphony is full of the music from the Fahrenden Gesellen. But also, it's another extremely compact piece. It's a little mini drama. I mean, Winterreise is a long piece. These are 18 minutes, and it's not covering the same level of disaster of Winterreise. I mean, almost no music can come close to that. But it's a real psychodrama on its own, and it tells you exactly what you need to do very, very, very quickly. Makes me wish that Mahler had written his opera.
And you have a wonderful singer who is Christian Gerha. He is artist in residence in this season. So I guess this was one of the reasons why you choose this for the program.
Well, we just simply felt in the middle of these 2 pieces. In fact, the Lutosławski and the Janacek came first as the idea of the pillars. But we wanted Christian in here, and we also felt that it gives a very particular concentrated emotional core at the center of the program. The only problem with Christian is just simply everybody wanted to work with him. At one point, it could have been that there were almost no programs in the season without him. He's such an extraordinary artist. So no, we're lucky to have him, and this is a very nice way to increase our extended family with the orchestra over the year, having someone that we are so close to.
So the second part of the program, the Glagolitic Mess, this was something that you decided together at first, after the Lutosławski, the Glagolitic Mess. So is there an inner link between these 2?
Well, I think Lutosławski, as well as Janacek and Bartók, these 3 composers we have as main composers in the festival, all these 3 have in common that they are really inventors of music. And then they try to create a new style of music, not by continuing the tradition, but to make a cut. And I think the Glagolitische Messe, as well as the 2nd Symphony by Lutosławski, is a cut. It's a new start of music. It's not just to continue sacred music or church music like Palestrina or every tradition you can imagine from Haydn, Beethoven, Mozart on. This is something really new. And for me, it's really a program of new composers who invented music. This is the main thing. And I don't know how these pieces will work together. So it's an experiment, as every year in the Musikfest. All pieces we put together, it's always an experiment. It's always a discovery for myself.